No. Okay, we have more my fan-made DC stories. This is Batman, Gotham's Night number 6.
Batman Gotham's Night number 6, The Ripper's End. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals. The rain had finally stopped. Mayor Jacob Packer's speech had ended hours earlier, but the streets of Gotham were still alive with police patrols. Citizens believed their mayor was determined to bring a killer to justice. Only one man knew the truth. High above City Hall, Batman watched Jacob Packer leave the building. The mayor climbed into a black sedan. Batman remained on the rooftop until the car disappeared into the night. Then he followed. The Batmobile stayed several blocks behind, its lights off. Eventually, Jacob's car pulled through the gates of his sprawling manor on the outskirts of Gotham. Batman parked nearby and continued.
Be afraid. Oh my God.
Batman, Gotham's Night number 6, The Ripper's End, Earth 1. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals. The applause echoed through Gotham City Hall Plaza. Mayor Jacob Packer stood at the podium, surrounded by reporters, police officers, and frightened citizens. Flashbulbs lit the evening sky as television cameras broadcast his words across Gotham. My fellow citizens, I know many of you are afraid. I know many of you wonder whether it's safe to walk these streets after dark. I promise you this. My administration will not rest until this murderer is found. I have approved additional funding for the Gotham City Police Department. More detectives, more patrol officers, more forensic resources. We will find the man responsible, and when we do, he will answer for every innocent life he has taken. The crowd erupted into applause. Batman watched silently from the roof of a nearby building. The cape around his shoulders fluttered in the evening wind. His eyes never left Jacob Packer. You're lying. You stood there, looking every victim's family in the eye, and you already knew who the killer was. Batman followed him as the crowd slowly dispersed. No Batmobile, no motorcycle, only rooftops, only shadows. Jacob climbed into the back of his limousine. Batman kept pace.
Just dead, my friend. Joker.
Batman Gotham's Night number 6, The Ripper's End, Earth 1, Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1. Mortals' rain fell over Gotham City, turning the streets into mirrors of red and blue police lights. Only hours earlier, Mayor Jacob Packer had stood before hundreds of citizens outside City Hall. His voice had been confident, his smile reassuring. Bruce Wayne had watched from the crowd, hiding every emotion behind a polite expression. Jacob's words echoed in Bruce's mind. My fellow citizens, the recent murders have shaken every neighborhood in Gotham. I am authorizing additional funding for the Gotham City Police Department. We will provide investigators with every resource available. We will find the man responsible, and when we do, he will face justice. The crowd had applauded. Bruce had applauded too. Now, standing atop a rooftop overlooking City Hall, Batman watched the mayor leave the building under heavy police protection. How did I miss it? Batman remained perfectly still. You met with him twice. You looked him in the eye. You shook his hand. He talked about making Gotham safer while he was carving women apart in the streets. The convoy rolled away. Batman followed, not from a vehicle, from the rooftops. He leaped between buildings, disappearing into every shadow, never letting the mayor's car leave his sight. His lungs burned, his muscles ached. He ignored both. Father trusted him. Thomas called him a friend. How long had he been hiding this? The convoy finally reached the gates of Jacob Packer's manor. Police officers remained outside while Jacob entered alone. The gates closed. Batman waited. Patience. Minutes passed. The lights inside the manor remained on. Then, one room suddenly went dark. Batman moved. He crossed the grounds without a sound, climbed the stone wall of the manor, and entered through an open second-story window. The house was silent. Too silent. Batman walked carefully through the hallway. A grandfather clock ticked. Somewhere below, a door opened. Batman descended quietly. He followed muddy footprints into a hidden room beneath the manor. The room looked nothing like the home of Gotham's mayor. Newspaper clippings covered the walls, maps of the Narrows, photographs of every victim, drawings of the Whitechapel murders, medical diagrams, old London newspaper articles. And hanging inside a glass cabinet, a long black coat, a dark cape, leather gloves, a weathered top hat, a pale mask, the Ripper's suit. Batman stared at it. "So it was you," a voice answered from the darkness. "I suppose you figured it out." Jacob Packer stepped into the room. He was no longer wearing the suit he had addressed the city in. Slowly, he reached toward the cabinet. Batman moved first. He exploded forward, driving Jacob backward into a table. The two crashed through shelves filled with books. Jacob reached into his pocket. Batman caught his wrist. A cell phone. Batman ripped it away and slammed it against the stone floor. The screen shattered into pieces. Jacob stared at the broken remains. "No." Batman grabbed him by the front of his shirt and pinned him against the wall. "You won't be calling anyone." Jacob struggled. He wasn't a trained fighter. He was terrified. Batman glared into his eyes. "Why?" Jacob's breathing became uneven. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this." Batman tightened his grip. "Why?" Jacob's composure shattered. "I loved her." Batman remained silent. "Thomas?" "He had everything." His voice cracked. "We grew up together. We studied together. We dreamed about changing Gotham together." Batman said nothing. Jacob laughed bitterly. "We both loved Martha Kane." His eyes filled with tears. I thought she'd choose me. But she loved Thomas. They married. I stood there and smiled. I even congratulated them." His laughter became hollow. "I tried to move on. I really did." Batman listened. "I buried it. I convinced myself I was over her." Jacob looked at the floor. "Years later, I traveled to Egypt. I wanted to forget Gotham. I wanted to forget Thomas. Forget Martha." He rubbed the side of his head almost instinctively. There was an accident. A pillar collapsed inside an old ruin. It struck me. I survived. But he looked back at Batman. When I woke up, it was like something woke up inside me. Batman remained motionless. I couldn't stop thinking about her. About Thomas. About what should have been mine. The thoughts became darker. They never stopped. When I came back to Gotham, I saw those women. They reminded me. He swallowed hard. They reminded me of everything I lost. Batman felt nothing but disgust. "So you murdered them?" Jacob nodded slowly. "I became him. Jack the Ripper. I studied every murder, every report. I wanted Gotham to remember his name." Batman interrupted. "No, you wanted Gotham to remember yours." Jacob's face collapsed. For a brief moment, there was no mayor, no public servant, only a broken, delusional man. Batman struck him once across the jaw. Jacob fell unconscious. Batman stood over him, young though he was. He already understood something. Not every monster wore a mask. Minutes later, police sirens surrounded the estate. Captain James Gordon stepped through the doorway. Harvey Bullock looked around the room. What the hell? Newspaper clippings, the Ripper costume, knives, evidence, everything. Jacob Packer lay tied securely on the floor. Beside him rested a single note. "The Ripper is finished." Gordon quietly looked around the room. Bullock picked up one of the old Whitechapel articles. "So the mayor?" Gordon nodded slowly. "It appears so." Bullock looked toward the unconscious Jacob. "Arkham?" Gordon shook his head. "No, Arkham Asylum has been closed for years. The building's been condemned ever since its structural problems got worse." Bullock sighed. "Then where?" Gordon looked at the officers entering the basement. "Blackgate. Maximum security." Jacob Packer was handcuffed and taken away. Not to Arkham, but to Blackgate Prison, where he would await trial. Morning arrived. For the first time in weeks, there were no reports of murdered women. No panic, no police broadcasts. The Ripper killings had ended. Later that afternoon, Bruce Wayne quietly entered the modest medical clinic run by Dr. Leslie Tompkins. She smiled warmly the moment she saw him. "Bruce? It's been too long." He returned the smile. "It has." Leslie noticed the bruises on his face almost immediately. She folded her arms. "What happened to you?" Bruce answered without hesitation. "Ski trip." She raised an eyebrow. "In July?" Bruce paused. "Indoor slope." Leslie laughed softly. "You've always been a terrible liar." Bruce smiled. "I've been told." She gently cleaned the cuts on his face anyway. Neither of them spoke for several minutes. Finally, Leslie rested a hand on his shoulder. "Whatever you're carrying." "You don't have to carry it alone." Bruce looked at her. For a moment, he almost told her everything. Instead, he simply nodded. "Thanks." As Bruce left the clinic, he felt something he rarely allowed himself. Peace. Only for a moment, but it was enough. That evening, Bruce crossed another rooftop on foot. The communicator inside his cowl crackled. Alfred's voice came through. Master Bruce? I'm here. I've been thinking. Bruce smiled slightly. I was afraid of that. I believe you may wish to consider building yourself a motor car. Batman chuckled quietly. A car? Yes, sir. It would certainly make traversing Gotham somewhat quicker than leaping across every rooftop. Bruce looked out over the city. I'll think about it. I do hope you will, sir. The transmission ended. Batman disappeared into the darkness once again. Across Gotham, inside a luxurious office high above the city, a man wearing a black ebony mask stood silently before a rain-covered window. Roman Sionis, black mask. Behind him stood one of his trusted assistants. The mayor's gone. The assistant waited. Black Mask never turned around. So, the Bat solved another problem. His gloved fingers slowly tightened around a crystal glass. He stared down at Gotham, then spoke with absolute certainty. Release the contract. The assistant nodded. Tonight. Black Mask finally turned. We kill the Bat. The lights of Gotham reflected across the polished Black Mask as the office fell silent. End of Batman Gotham's Night number 6. The Ripper's End, to be continued in Batman Gotham's Nightmare 7. GCPD Report Number 6. Case file Jack the Ripper, Jacob Packer, recorded by Detective Renee Montoya. Location, Gotham City Police Department, Major Crimes Division. Classification, closed investigation. Date, Tate. Recorded by Detective Renee Montoya. This is Detective Renee Montoya. This recording concerns the completed investigation into the serial homicide case known to the public as the Ripper Murders. The suspect has been identified as Jacob Packer, former mayor of Gotham City. The investigation is now considered closed. Suspect information. Name Jacob Packer, occupation, former mayor of Gotham City. Current status, in custody at Blackgate Prison, pending trial. Arkham Asylum was determined to be unavailable for confinement due to its long-term closure and unsafe condition. Jacob Packer was elected mayor after defeating incumbent Hamilton Hill. During his campaign and early time in office, Packer publicly promised to increase funding for the Gotham City Police Department and personally vowed to stop the serial killer responsible for the murders of several women in the Narrows. Evidence now confirms that those public statements were made while Packer himself was responsible for the killings. Victims. Confirmed victims were adult female prostitutes operating within Gotham's Narrows district. Each victim displayed injuries consistent with the historical murders committed in Whitechapel, London, in 1888 by the unidentified serial killer known as Jack the Ripper. Medical examiners concluded that the killer deliberately recreated the historical method of attack. Recovered evidence. Evidence 01. A concealed room beneath Jacob Packer's manor. Recovered items included historical books concerning the Whitechapel murders, newspaper clippings documenting the Gotham murders, city maps identifying victim locations, handwritten notes detailing victim selection, medical sketches. Evidence item 02, a black overcoat, a dark cape, leather gloves, a weathered top hat, a mask, collectively believed to be the clothing worn during the murders. The clothing has been secured inside the GCPD evidence vault. Evidence item 03, multiple knives recovered from the hidden room. Forensic examination linked several of the blades to injuries sustained by the victims. Evidence item 04, DNA recovered from clothing left at the final crime scene. Laboratory testing identified 2 individuals. The victim, Jacob Packer. This evidence provided the first direct forensic connection between the suspect and the murders. Evidence item 05. Documents recovered from the manor describing Jack the Ripper's crimes in extensive detail. Investigators believe these materials were used by Packer to imitate the historical murders. Confession. According to responding officers, Batman confronted Jacob Packer inside the hidden room beneath his manor before police arrived. When officers entered the scene, they discovered Packer restrained and unconscious. Investigators later obtained a recorded confession from Packer after he regained consciousness. During questioning, Packer admitted responsibility for the murders. He stated that his obsession began years after the deaths of Thomas and Martha Wayne. He confessed that he had long harbored romantic feelings for Martha Kane before her marriage to Thomas Wayne. Packer further claimed that following a head injury sustained during an archaeological trip to Egypt, he experienced severe psychological changes that intensified his resentment and ultimately led him to adopt the identity of Jack the Ripper. The investigation has not produced evidence supporting any supernatural explanation for these claims. Batman's involvement. As with previous investigations, Batman departed before officers could question him. Evidence indicates Batman preserved the crime scene and left the suspect alive for arrest. While his methods remain unauthorized, his actions directly resulted in the apprehension of Jacob Packer. Personal observation. This section reflects my own opinion and not an official departmental finding. I've seen greed, revenge, jealousy, organized crime. People kill for all kinds of reasons. This case was different. Jacob Packer wore two faces. One belonged to a respected public official who promised hope. The other belonged to a murderer who terrorized Gotham's most vulnerable citizens. Sometimes the people hiding the darkest secrets aren't the ones wearing masks. They're the ones smiling behind podiums. Case status. Suspect, Jacob Packer. Alias, Jack the Ripper, copycat. Status, in custody. Location, Blackgate Prison. Victims, multiple confirmed evidence sufficient for prosecution. Investigation closed. This is Detective Renee Montoya. Ending recording. GCPD archive entry case file, Jacob Packer, Jack the Ripper. Status closed. Suspect in custody at Blackgate Prison. Gotham Villains Number 1, The Bat Problem, Earth 1. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1. Mortals. Long before Gotham's greatest supervillains would make names for themselves, the city's...
Oh, it's you! Mr. Owl!
Mr. Owl,
Gotham
how
Villains
many
Number
legs
1.
does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? The world may never know.
Gotham Villains Number 1, The Bat Problem, Earth 1. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1. Mortals' one-shot rain poured over Gotham City. To ordinary people, the city looked the same as it always had. The streets were dangerous, the alleys belonged to gangs, the night belonged to criminals. But inside Gotham's underworld, something had changed. A single man dressed as a bat had become the one topic every criminal whispered about. Not because he ruled Gotham, because no one knew where he would appear next. High above the city, inside a luxurious office overlooking Gotham Harbor, Roman Sionis, better known throughout the underworld as Black Mask, stood silently at the window. Behind him, several lieutenants waited. No one dared speak first. Finally, Black Mask broke the silence. How many? One lieutenant swallowed nervously. 3 gambling houses, 2 warehouses, a weapons shipment, a drug operation, and the Falcone shipment. Black Mask slowly turned. His black mask reflected the lights of Gotham. All because of one man? The lieutenant nodded. Yes, sir. Black Mask walked toward a large table covered with maps of Gotham. Red circles marked businesses under his control. Many now had thick black X's drawn over them. The Bat, he almost laughed. When he first appeared, I thought he was another lunatic looking for attention. He placed one gloved finger on the map. Now. He cost me money. He looked around the room. My men hesitate before making collections. They double-check rooftops. They're afraid to walk into empty warehouses. They jump whenever a light goes out. His voice grew colder. Fear. I built this organization on fear. My fear. He slammed his fist onto the table. And now, they fear him. No one spoke. Black Mask looked toward his assistant. The contract. It's being prepared. Black Mask nodded. Good. If Batman wants a war, we'll give him one. Across Gotham, the Iceberg Lounge buzzed with music and expensive conversation. Unlike most criminal hideouts, everything appeared respectable. That was exactly how Oswald Cobblepot, the Penguin, preferred it. He sat in his private office while several trusted associates reviewed ledgers. One of them finally asked, "What about Batman?" Penguin calmly took a sip of tea. "I've never seen him." Another man frowned, "But everyone says..." I don't care what everyone says, Penguin interrupted. Gotham has always loved ghost stories. A monster in the shadows. A man dressed like a bat. He waved dismissively. If he exists, he's still only one man. An accountant cautiously spoke. Our shipments have been interrupted. Our smaller crews keep disappearing. Penguin looked annoyed. Exactly. He stood and walked toward the window. The Falcones lose a warehouse. Black Mask loses gambling operations. Street gangs vanish overnight. He looked out across Gotham Harbor. The Bat isn't attacking empires. He's attacking foundations. The room fell silent. Penguin continued. If every small organization disappears, if every independent crew is wiped out, then where do you think he'll look next? No one answered. Penguin smiled. At me. He tapped his umbrella against the floor. If Batman is real, eventually he'll come knocking on my door. He looked back toward his men. I don't enjoy waiting. Elsewhere, inside an abandoned textile factory, graffiti covered every wall. Dozens of masked criminals gathered around barrels filled with burning wood. Each wore the same symbol. A crimson hood, the Red Hood Gang. Their leader slammed a crowbar onto a table. You all heard what happened. One gangster nodded nervously. The Bat took down another crew. Another shook his head. I heard he hangs upside down like a vampire. Someone else scoffed. My cousin says he caught bullets. A younger gang member spoke quietly. I don't know if any of that's true, but I know Benny disappeared after trying to rob a jewelry store. Another answered immediately. He didn't disappear. The police found him tied to a lamppost. The room grew quieter. The leader folded his arms. So, what do we do? One of the older gang members finally answered. We stay out of his way. The leader laughed. You want to kill him? The older man quickly shook his head. No, absolutely not. Several others agreed. One muttered, I've got kids. Another crossed himself. I ain't fighting that thing. The leader looked around the room. So we're scared. Nobody argued. One younger member finally admitted it. Yeah, we're scared. The leader sighed. I hate him. So do I. But I don't want to be the guy that tries to kill him. The room erupted with nervous laughter. Another gangster spoke. He ain't after us unless we give him a reason. The leader nodded. Then don't give him one. For the first time in years, the Red Hood Gang canceled several robberies. Not because of the police, because of Batman. Across Gotham, word continued spreading through every criminal organization. Some dismissed Batman as a myth. Others believed he was something supernatural. Some wanted him dead. Others simply hoped never to meet him. High above them all, Batman silently watched Gotham from a cathedral rooftop. He had no idea that across the city, the underworld was changing because of him. Some criminals now feared committing crimes. Others were preparing for war. And somewhere in Gotham, professional killers were already beginning to receive messages. A contract had been issued. The target, the Batman. End of Gotham Villains #1, The Bat Problem. Batman Gotham's Night #7, The Assassin Contract, Part 1. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals. Gotham had finally grown quiet. For the first time in weeks, the police scanners weren't flooded with reports of another murdered woman. Jacob Packer had been arrested. The Ripper case was over. But Bruce Wayne knew Gotham never stayed quiet for long. Deep beneath Wayne Manor, the Batcave echoed with the steady hum of the Bat computer. Bruce stood before the console, still wearing parts of his Batsuit. His cape rested over a nearby chair, and the bruises from the previous night's confrontation with Jacob Packer were still fresh. On the workbench sat the hard drive he had stolen from the Iceberg Lounge days earlier, while posing as Matches Malone. Bruce picked it up. Let's see what Penguin was hiding. He connected the drive to the Bat computer. For several seconds, nothing. Then folders began appearing one after another. Shipping manifests, money transfers, weapon inventories, bribes. Then one folder caught Bruce's attention. Bat contract. He opened it. A list of names appeared. A bounty amount flashed across the screen. Target Batman. Reward, $50,000. Bruce narrowed his eyes. So, they've decided to stop waiting. Alfred walked over from the medical station. What have you found, sir? Bruce continued scrolling. Black Mask. He issued a contract. For me, Alfred adjusted his glasses. A rather expensive one, judging by your expression. Bruce nodded. $50 million. Alfred let out a quiet whistle. I suppose that would attract a certain caliber of individual. It did. Bruce opened the first dossier. A mugshot filled the screen. A scarred man surrounded by electrical equipment. Bruce read aloud. Street tough named Lester Bushinsky. Calls himself electrocutioner. Information scrolled across the monitor detailing his use of electrically charged weapons, sabotage, and murder for hire. Bruce closed the file and opened the next. A masked assassin dressed in green appeared. Bruce frowned. Here's a face I don't recognize. Copperhead. Strange. These reports reference a male, not a female. He continued reading. Poison expert. Master infiltrator. Professional killer. Bruce quietly filed the information away. Another photograph appeared. A man wearing orange and blue tactical armor. Bruce recognized him immediately. Slade Wilson, Deathstroke. Former military, subject of a failed medical experiment. Bruce remained silent for a moment. Even during his years of training, Slade Wilson's reputation had been impossible to ignore. One of the deadliest men alive. Another file opened. A man in a white suit with a targeting monocle. Bruce read the dossier. Floyd Lawton, a.k.a. Deadshot, says here he's an expert sharpshooter, suspected of many assassinations, dangerous but reckless. Alfred looked over Bruce's shoulder. Reckless can still be fatal. Bruce nodded. It only takes one shot. The next photograph appeared. A sharply dressed man with slicked back hair and a disturbing smile. Bruce studied him carefully. Flamingo, a notorious cannibal assassin who travels the world. Alfred frowned. I've met unpleasant people, sir, but I believe that one belongs in an entirely different category. Bruce silently agreed. The next file loaded. Garfield Lynns. Bruce's eyes narrowed. Firefly. I thought he was locked up in Blackgate. How did he get out? The dossier listed him as recently escaped. No explanation. Bruce made a mental note. We'll have to figure that out later. The next file displayed a massive man with a cybernetic arm. Bruce spoke. KG Beast, ex-Russian KGB member, now a notorious assassin. Strength. Weapons, military training, explosives. The file contained dozens of successful contracts. Batman, Gotham's Night Number 7. Batman, Gotham's Night Number 7. The Assassin Contract, Part 1. Earth 1. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1. Mortals' rain fell over Gotham. The city was quieter than usual. Not peaceful, never peaceful, just quieter. For the first time in weeks, the murders had stopped. Jacob Packer, the man who called himself Jack the Ripper, was behind bars. The streets were no longer filled with fear of a killer hunting in the shadows. But Bruce Wayne knew better. Gotham never stayed quiet for long. The Batcave was silent. Only the sound of the Bat computer processing information filled the enormous cavern. Bruce sat in the chair, still wearing parts of his suit. His gloves sat on the table. His cowl rested beside the computer. The investigation into Jacob Packer had taken everything from him. Every night, every hour, every thought. And now, he finally had time to examine something he had stolen before the Ripper case. The hard drive. The one taken from Penguin's men at the Iceberg Lounge. The reason Penguin's people were transporting it. The reason they were willing to risk everything. Bruce connected the device. The Bat computer immediately began decrypting the files. Accessing data. Encryption level, high. Bruce leaned forward. Come on. Minutes passed. Then the screen changed. File opened. Bruce's eyes narrowed. A list appeared. A name, a target, a price. Target Batman contract value, $50,000. Bruce stared. $50 million. He continued reading. The buyer information appeared. Authorized by Roman Sionis, supplied by Oswald Cobblepot. Bruce sat back. Black mask, Penguin, working together. Alfred entered the cave carrying a tray. Master Bruce? Bruce didn't look away from the screen. We have a problem. Alfred placed the tray down. I assumed that was the case when you said those words. Bruce continued scrolling. Black Mask hired assassins. 10 of them. Alfred looked concerned. 10? Bruce nodded. Penguin supplied him. Alfred frowned. Why would Cobblepot help someone trying to eliminate you? Bruce looked at the files. Money. He doesn't believe in me. He doesn't believe I'm real. Bruce clicked another file. He believes that if I am real, I'm taking down smaller criminal organizations one by one. Bruce looked toward Alfred, and when they're all gone, Penguin is next. The screen displayed photographs. 10 different criminals, 10 different threats. Bruce examined each one. Lester Bushinsky alias Electrocutioner. The first image appeared. A man wearing a specialized suit designed to deliver electrical attacks. Bruce studied the information. Street tough named Lester Bushinsky. He calls himself Electrocutioner. Alfred looked at the file. Not exactly subtle, no, Bruce continued, but dangerous. Copperhead. The next file appeared, a masked figure, a strange costume, a history of assassinations. Bruce frowned. Here's a face I don't recognize. Copperhead. He read the report. Strange. These reports reference a male, not a female. Alfred looked confused. Perhaps the information is incorrect? Possible. Bruce stared at the picture. But whoever this is, they're dangerous. Slade Wilson, the next file appeared. A soldier wearing tactical armor. Bruce immediately recognized him. Slade Wilson? Deathstroke. Alfred looked over. You know him? Not personally. Bruce read the file. Former military. Subject of a failed medical experiment. Enhanced strength, speed, reflexes. Bruce paused. One of the most dangerous people on this list. Hack Floyd Lawton, the next image appeared. A man carrying firearms. Bruce studied the information. Floyd Lawton, a.k.a. Deadshot. He scrolled through the reports. Says here he's an expert sharpshooter. Suspected of multiple assassinations. Bruce looked at the picture. Dangerous, but reckless. Alfred nodded. That sounds like someone who overestimates himself. Usually. Eduardo Flamingo. The next file appeared. A photograph of a man wearing bright colors and a disturbing smile. Bruce's expression changed slightly. Flamingo. Alfred looked at him. Something wrong, sir? Bruce continued reading. Eduardo Flamingo, a notorious cannibal assassin who travels the world. The cave became quiet. Alfred looked back at the screen. That is certainly one way to describe a criminal. Bruce closed the file. He enjoys what he does. Garfield Linz, the next file opened. Bruce immediately recognized the face. Firefly. Alfred looked surprised. I thought he was locked up in Blackgate. Bruce stared at the file. So did I. He examined the information. How did he get out? The answer wasn't theirs, like only a contract, only a target, only a price. Anatoly Nyazev, the next file appeared. KGBeast. Bruce studied the image of the Russian assassin. KGBeast, former Russian KGB operative, now a notorious assassin. Alfred noticed something. He appears to have no cybernetic enhancements. Bruce nodded. Not yet. He doesn't need them. Lady Shiva, the next file appeared. Bruce became completely still. Shiva. Alfred noticed his reaction. Sir? Bruce continued reading. Her skill is unmatched. Alfred looked at him. You sound like you know her. Bruce remained quiet for a moment. Then I trained with her. Alfred raised an eyebrow. When? When I was at Nanda Parbat. Alfred nodded slowly. Another person from your training years. Bruce closed the file. Yes, one of the best fighters I've ever faced. Benjamin Turner, the next file appeared. Bronze Tiger. Bruce examined the information. Benjamin Turner, not as skilled as Shiva when it comes to ninja techniques. But he looked at the fighting records. He's still one of the most skilled fighters alive. Alfred nodded. Another opponent who will not be easy. Hashtag the Archer, the final file appeared. No real name, no confirmed identity, only a picture. A man carrying a bow. Bruce studied the report. Real name unknown. Known criminal in Metropolis. He scrolled. Never took up any assassination attempts before now. Bruce looked at the screen. Which means someone convinced him this was worth it. Alfred looked over the list. 10 assassins. Bruce nodded. 10 people willing to kill me. All because Black Mask wants his businesses back. Alfred looked concerned. What will you do? Bruce stood. He picked up his cowl. Find out why they think they can. Later that night, the Red Hood gang attempted another robbery. A group of criminals entered a warehouse near the docks. They carried weapons. They carried confidence. They carried the belief that Batman was too busy dealing with bigger threats. They were wrong. The lights went out. One by one, the criminals disappeared. A man turned around. Where is he? A shadow moved. A fist struck. Another criminal raised his weapon. A batarang hit it out of his hand. The gang leader looked around. Show yourself. Batman stepped from the darkness. You already know where I am. The criminals froze. The fight lasted less than a minute. When the police arrived, every member of the Red Hood gang was tied up, alive, waiting. From the rooftop above them, Batman watched the police take them away. But his mind wasn't on them. It was on the names, the contract, the 10 assassins coming for him. Alfred's voice came through his communicator. Master Bruce? Batman looked over Gotham. Yes? Are you certain you should handle this alone? Bruce looked down at the city. I've handled everything else. Alfred paused. Sir? Bruce ignored the concern. I'll be ready. The transmission ended. Batman disappeared into the night, but somewhere in Gotham, 10 killers were preparing. And for the first time, the criminals weren't running from Batman. They were hunting him. To be continued, Batman Gotham's Night number 8, The Assassin Contract, Part 2.
His whatever the fuck he is, his name is Chris. Probably hasn't been given for anything.
There's 100 pound animal now that are quietly taking a river apart, and the surface looks exactly the way it did before it arrived. Number 3. The Eastern Coyote. You have heard them at night, and you have called them coyotes.
I'm not at the price. 30 to 40, okay, that'd be fine. That's just don't trip me.
When wolves were shot in a trap in Boise County, East in the 1800s, the coyotes had bred with classic. And about a tenth domestic. Wildlife scientists named
You're, tell Dad what it,
Ain't that bad. But pissing me off is Mom. It didn't find what more business was. The mom said that Kim getting it from this place for 49 fucking pounds, and I just looked into it. Yeah, if I made 60 to that, I might go order either the cheaper shit or the more expensive and buy me an ounce.
I'm mad about the price that he's charging, because if it's only going for 20, I can understand if you want to double it to 40, you know?
No, I'm not ready to get enough from JoJo. One day
Double
they
it
get me through and order one and see what it's fucking.
to 60.
Just that big, you know?
Because that airport still affects 2 predators left now, and this is where these hills start turning to be a booster. Number 2, the black bear.
You didn't know what was gonna
A
let
black
out of
bear is
that.
supposed to weigh 200 to 300 pounds.
Because I thought you know, we looked it up and that's what imitated from.
Garbage can bear that runs
Then I looked it up and all I did was saw CHCA.
these mountains.
So I go, oh, that's more than likely it.
Past every rule the species is meant to follow.
She goes, so it ain't actually weed? I go, no. She goes, well, that's what we did smoking. It is, but it ain't. Because so that's actually less actual stuff than fucking.
The state
But it's still high.
Because of THCA.
Yeah.
75
So,
in 2010. Since 19
That's how I light up my Red Bull weed.
and 77.
Even though I buy it in the spring.
yeah.
As recently
That's
as
so fucking.
the single heaviest
Ends up having so much TH fucking. See, the majority of that shit is THC fucking.
I know of her, I know.
That's what all these people that are talking about THC was doing under.
Batman Gotham's Night number 8, The Assassin Contract, Part 2, Earth 1, Saga 1 Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals. Gotham City never slept. It only changed. During the day, it pretended to be a normal city. Businesses opened, people went to work, politicians made promises. At night, the truth came out. Criminals owned the streets, and now the criminals were afraid. Not because of the police, not because of the courts, because of something they still couldn't explain. A shadow, a creature, a myth. The Batman. The Batcave was quiet. Bruce Wayne stood in front of the Bat computer, reviewing the files from the Assassin Contract. 10 names, 10 killers, 10 people who believed $50 million was enough to end him. Alfred Pennyworth stood nearby. Master Bruce? Bruce didn't look away from the screen. Yes, Alfred? Perhaps I should point out something. Bruce finally looked over. What? You have spent the last several weeks fighting a serial killer, a criminal organization, a vigilante, and now a group of professional assassins. Bruce stayed silent. Alfred continued. You're human, sir. Bruce looked back toward the files. I know? Bruce turned. Alfred sighed. I'm not questioning your dedication. I'm questioning whether you understand your limits. Bruce picked up his cowl. The criminals don't. Alfred looked confused. Sir? They don't see a man. Bruce looked toward the darkness of the cave. They see something else. A monster? A ghost? A thing that comes from the shadows. Bruce put on his gloves, and as long as they believe that, they'll be afraid. Alfred watched him leave. Just remember, Master Bruce, even ghosts need rest. Later that night, Batman moved through Gotham. The city below was filled with criminals who had heard stories. Some said Batman wasn't real. Some said he was a former soldier. Others said he was something supernatural. A demon, a vampire, a monster. Nobody knew the truth, and Batman wanted it that way. Batman stood at the edge of a rooftop. Below him was an abandoned warehouse. A small group of Red Hood gang members were moving stolen weapons. He reached toward his belt. The grappling gun fired. The cable shot upward. Batman launched into the air. The criminals below never saw him coming. The first man looked up. What was that? A shadow landed behind him. Before he could react, Batman grabbed him and pulled him into the darkness. Another criminal raised his weapon. A batarang struck it away. The weapon clattered across the ground. The gang members froze. It's him. The Bat? One of them stepped backward. No, that's not possible. Batman walked forward. You're right. The criminal shook. You aren't real. Batman stopped. I'm real enough. The gang leader stepped forward. Anders Overbeck, a known member of the Red Hood gang. Unlike the others, he didn't run. He attacked. Anders swung a metal pipe. Batman blocked the attack. The pipe struck his arm. The impact hurt. Bruce felt it. His suit wasn't armored. Every mistake mattered. But he didn't show it. Batman grabbed Anders' arm, twisted, and threw him against the wall. Anders tried to stand. Batman was already there. A quick strike, a sweep of the legs. Anders hit the ground. Batman restrained him. The other criminals stared. The myth had just defeated them. Minutes later, the Gotham City Police Department arrived. They found every Red Hood member tied up, Anders Overbeck included. No Batman, no explanation, only a message. The weapons are recovered. Batman watched from a nearby rooftop. Then his communicator activated. A police emergency broadcast. Attention all units. Possible assassination attempt reported near Gotham City Hall. Batman froze. Assassination. He looked toward the city. The contract. Batman raced across the rooftops, not because he was worried about himself, because he finally understood. They aren't just coming for me. They're starting with the city. Gotham City Hall. Mayor Hamilton Hill was leaving a public event. Security surrounded him. Reporters shouted questions. Suddenly, a flash of movement. A figure on a nearby rooftop. A bow. An arrow. Batman saw it. He moved. The arrow fired. Batman grabbed Hill and pulled him away. The arrow struck the wall behind them. Panic erupted. Police drew weapons. People ran. Batman looked toward the rooftop. The assassin was already moving. Batman chased him across Gotham. The figure moved quickly. Too quickly for an ordinary criminal. But Batman was faster. The assassin fired another arrow. Batman rolled beneath it. A grappling hook pulled him upward. The two reached the same rooftop. The assassin turned, a masked man holding a bow. Batman recognized him. The Archer. The assassin smiled. So the stories are true. Batman stepped forward. You were hired to kill me. The Archer raised his bow. You're worth $50 million. Batman tilted his head. Not anymore. The Archer fired. Batman moved. The arrow missed. Batman closed the distance. The fight was short. The Archer was skilled, but he wasn't prepared for Batman's unpredictability. A strike to the arm, a kick to the chest, a final move that sent the bow sliding across the rooftop. Batman restrained him. Who hired you? The Archer laughed. You already know. Batman stared. Black mask. The Archer said nothing. Batman looked down. The contract wasn't just about him. It was about Gotham. Later, the Batcave. Bruce examined the Archer's equipment. Alfred watched. Another assassin? Bruce nodded. Yes, and he attempted to murder Mayor Hill. Bruce looked at the files again. That means the contract has expanded. Alfred frowned. They are targeting anyone connected to Gotham's power structure? Bruce shook his head. No. They're sending a message. Bruce looked at the 10 assassin profiles. Anyone who gets in their way is a target. The next morning, Wayne Manor. Bruce sat in the dining room. For once, he wasn't wearing the cowl. Across from him sat his cousin, Kate Kane. She had recently returned to Gotham. Bruce smiled slightly. It's been a while. Kate nodded. It has. She looked around the manor. Feels strange being back. Bruce understood. Gotham had a way of doing that. You always said you'd never come back. Kate smiled. I changed my mind. Bruce looked down. People change. Kate noticed the bruises on his hands. You okay? Bruce immediately covered them. Training. Kate raised an eyebrow. Still? Still. She smiled. Some things never change. Bruce looked toward the window. Outside was Gotham. The city his father loved, the city he promised to protect. Kate followed his gaze. Something happening? Bruce paused. No. A lie. A small one, but a necessary one, because Kate didn't need to know. Not yet. That night, in a hidden location beneath Gotham, the remaining assassins prepared. The Archer was gone. Batman had taken him down, but 9 remained. Black Mask looked over the files. 1 down. His assistant looked nervous. Does that concern you? Black Mask smiled. No. He looked toward the city. Actually, it proves something. The Bat can be hurt. He turned away. Good. That makes this interesting. Above Gotham, Batman stood alone on a rooftop, watching, waiting. The city believed he was a monster, a myth, a creature in the dark. And for now, that was exactly what Gotham needed. End of Batman. GCPD Report Machiavel's Red Hood Gang and the Archer. Recorded by Detective Renee Montoya. Location, Gotham City Police Department, Major Crimes Division. Classification, active investigation transfer completed. Date, 9:02 a.m. Recorded by Detective Renee Montoya. This is Detective Renee Montoya. This recording concerns 2 connected investigations. The first involves the recent arrest of multiple members of the Red Hood Gang. The second concerns the attempted assassination of Gotham City Mayor Hamilton Hill and the arrest of the individual known as the Archer. Case 1, Red Hood Gang. The Red Hood Gang remains one of Gotham City's longest-running street-level criminal organizations. While they lack the resources and influence of larger groups, such as the Falcone crime family, the Penguin organization, or Black Mask's operations, the gang has maintained control over several illegal activities throughout Gotham. Known crimes include armed robbery, weapons trafficking, extortion, illegal gambling, theft of stolen property. The latest operation resulted in the arrest of several gang members at an abandoned warehouse near the Gotham docks. Recovered evidence includes illegal firearms, stolen weapons shipments, criminal records belonging to multiple gang members, communication records between gang members. All evidence has been processed and entered into the GCPD evidence system. Primary suspect, Anders Overbeck, known associate of the Red Hood Gang. Previous charges include assault, armed robbery, possession of illegal weapons, organized criminal activity. Overbeck and the other suspects were discovered restrained at the scene. No officers witnessed the individual responsible. However, based on evidence recovered at the location and witness statements from nearby criminals, the person responsible appears to be the individual known as Batman. Statement from suspects. Multiple Red Hood members refused to provide official statements. However, several made similar comments regarding the suspect responsible for their arrest. Common descriptions include a shadow, something in the dark, not human. One suspect stated, open quote, "You don't fight him, you survive him," close quote. The department has not confirmed these claims. Case 2, the Archer. This investigation concerns the attempted assassination of Gotham City Mayor Hamilton Hill. During a public appearance, an unidentified attacker attempted to kill Mayor Hill using a bow and arrow from a nearby rooftop. The suspect was prevented from completing the assassination. The suspect has been identified as alias, the Archer. Real name, unknown origin, recovered evidence. Items collected from the crime scene include custom-made bow, specialized arrows, additional ammunition, Fingerprints belonging to the suspect. Personal equipment. The suspect's equipment indicates extensive training and preparation. Suspect information. The Archer has a known criminal history in Metropolis. Prior offenses include armed assault, illegal weapons possession, criminal activity involving specialized archery equipment. No previous assassination attempts have been confirmed. Connection to the Batman investigation. Evidence recovered from the suspect indicates that the Archer was hired as part of a larger contract targeting Batman. The investigation has identified a possible connection to organized criminal activity within Gotham. The name Roman Sionis, also known as Black Mask, remains under investigation. Tash transfer status. Due to the suspect's criminal history and known activities outside Gotham jurisdiction, the Archer was temporarily transferred to Blackgate Prison. He remained there while Gotham authorities coordinated with the Metropolis Police Department. After legal arrangements were completed, custody of the Archer was transferred to Metropolis authorities. The suspect is scheduled for transport to Strikers Island Penitentiary. Tash personal observation. The Red Hood gang has always been dangerous, but recently, something has changed. Criminals who once feared the police now fear something else. The Batman. Whether people believe he is a man, a symbol, or something else entirely, the result is the same. Criminal organizations are changing their behavior. Some are running, some are hiding, some are preparing for a fight. The Archer's arrest raises another concern. If he was hired as part of a contract, he is not the only one. Someone paid a significant amount of money to remove Batman from Gotham, and if there are more people involved, the city may not have seen the last attempt. Case status, Red Hood gang investigation active. Multiple suspects in custody. Anders Overbeck arrested. The Archer transferred to Metropolis Police Department custody. Final destination, Strikers Island Penitentiary. Black Mask investigation ongoing. Batman person of interest. This is Detective Renee Montoya. Ending recording. GCPD archive entry case files, Red Hood gang, The Archer. Status, active investigation, transfer completed. Batman Beyond #1, The Return of the Dark Knight, Far Future Timeline. The city had changed, but Gotham was still Gotham. The skyline was taller. The buildings were brighter. The streets were filled with technology that Bruce Wayne could have only imagined. Flying vehicles moved between towers. Artificial intelligence controlled entire systems. Robots patrolled the streets. The world had moved forward. But crime had evolved with it, and Gotham still needed a Batman. Decades had passed since the original Dark Knight disappeared. The stories had become legends. Some said Batman was a man. Some said he was a symbol. Some said he was never real, just like the criminals of the old days had once believed. But Gotham remembered. The Bat, the Shadow, the Protector, the myth. In Neo-Gotham, a teenager named Terry McGinnis was trying to survive. Terry wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't a detective. He wasn't a trained warrior. He was just a kid trying to find his place in a world that seemed too big for him. Terry was smart, quick, stubborn, and constantly getting himself into trouble. His life wasn't easy. His parents separated. His father, Warren McGinnis, tried to keep him on the right path. But Terry had anger, a lot of anger, especially after losing his father. After discovering a conspiracy connected to his father's death, Terry found himself chasing answers. Those answers led him to one place, an old mansion outside the city, Wayne Manor, a place that had become almost forgotten. Inside lived an old man, a man with a lifetime of secrets, Bruce Wayne. Terry didn't know who he was at first. He only knew Bruce was a bitter old man who lived alone, until he discovered the truth, the cave beneath the manor, the equipment, the files, the symbol, the Batman. Bruce Wayne, the original Batman, the man who had protected Gotham for decades. Terry stared at the old suit. "You were Batman?" Bruce looked away. "I was." Terry looked around the cave. "You fought criminals with this?" Bruce answered simply, "Yes." Terry shook his head. "That's insane." Bruce looked at him. "You're one to talk." Terry had no response. After discovering the truth, Terry was pulled into Bruce's world. He wasn't supposed to become Batman. Bruce made that clear. "You aren't trained. You aren't ready, huh? You aren't me." Terry looked at him. "Good. Bruce paused. I don't want to be you. But Gotham needed Batman, and Terry needed a purpose. When criminals threatened everything he cared about, he made a choice. Bruce opened the case. Inside was something different. Not the old cloth suit, not the armor of the past. A new suit. A futuristic Batman suit. Black, advanced, designed with technology beyond anything Bruce had ever used. Terry looked at it. This is yours? Bruce shook his head. Not anymore. Terry McGinnis became Batman. Not because he was Bruce Wayne, because he wasn't. He was younger, different, reckless. But he had something Bruce recognized. The willingness to stand between innocent people and danger. His first nights were chaos. The criminals laughed. They didn't believe him. They had heard the stories. Batman was old. Batman was gone. Batman was a myth. Until Terry arrived. After taking down a criminal operation connected to one of Neo Gotham's major gangs, Terry realized something. Being Batman wasn't only about fighting. It was about information, connections, understanding criminals before they understood him. Bruce had spent years building identities, so Terry needed one. Back at Wayne Manor, Terry sat with Bruce. I need a way into their world. Bruce looked at him. Undercover? Terry nodded. I need to know what they're planning before I stop them. Bruce thought for a moment, then opened an old file. Criminals trust criminals. Terry looked at the file. A name, Trey Malone. A fake identity, a criminal record, a new face, a new story. Terry McGinnis disappeared, and Trey Malone was born. The next night, inside one of Neo Gotham's underground clubs, criminals gathered. They talked about weapons, money, territory. Then the door opened. A young man walked inside, confident, calm, dangerous. Who are you? The man smiled. Trey Malone. The criminals looked him over. Never heard of you. Trey shrugged. That's because I like keeping it that way. One of the criminals laughed. You think you can just walk in here? Trey smiled. No. I think you already invited me. The criminals didn't know what to make of him, but they noticed something. He wasn't afraid. From a hidden location, Bruce watched through a monitor. You better be careful. Terry's voice came through the communicator. I know. Bruce frowned. No, you don't. Terry smiled slightly. That's why you picked me. Bruce remained silent, because Terry was right. Later that night, Trey Malone gained access to the criminal network. He learned their plans, their names, their operations, everything Batman needed. Then he disappeared into the night. On a rooftop overlooking Neo Gotham, Terry removed the disguise. The Batman suit returned. The symbol returned. The legend returned. But this time, it wasn't Bruce Wayne. It was Terry McGinnis, the next generation, the future of the Bat. Bruce watched from the Batcave. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. The Batman was alive, just not the Batman Gotham remembered. A new city, a new era, a new Dark Knight. End of Batman Beyond #1, The Return of the Dark Knight. JSA Beyond 1, The Legacy of the Justice Society. Earth 2, Future Timeline. The future remembered heroes differently. Some became legends, some became myths, some became stories told to children. But on Earth 2, there was one team that started it all. Before the Justice League, before the modern age of heroes, before the world knew what a superhero truly was. There was the Justice Society of America. Decades ago, the Justice Society stood as the first great team of heroes. They fought for justice. They protected the innocent. They inspired generations. Heroes like The Flash, Green Lantern, the original heroes who showed the world that ordinary people could become something extraordinary. But every legend eventually faces an ending, and the Justice Society's greatest enemy was waiting. The Injustice Society of America, a group created to destroy everything the Justice Society represented. They weren't interested in helping humanity. They wanted power, control, fear, and their leader was Icicle. Icicle was different from other villains. He wasn't a criminal looking for money. He wasn't a monster seeking destruction. He was patient, calculated. He believed heroes had made the world weak, and he believed the Injustice Society was the future. The final battle between the two societies became one of the darkest moments in Earth's history. The Justice Society fought with everything they had, but the Injustice Society came prepared. They knew their enemies, they knew their weaknesses, they knew the world had changed. And eventually, the original Justice Society of America fell. The world moved on. People stopped seeing heroes. They saw stories, old photographs, history books. The Justice Society became something from another time, a reminder of what once was. Years later, a young woman stood inside the old Justice Society headquarters. Dust covered everything. The walls were filled with pictures of heroes who had saved the world. She looked at each one carefully. Her name was Courtney Whitmore, but the world knew her as Stargirl. Courtney picked up an old photograph, the original Justice Society. She smiled. Everyone thinks you're gone. She looked around the abandoned headquarters. But I don't. Courtney had inherited more than a weapon, more than a costume. She had inherited a responsibility, the Cosmic Staff. A powerful weapon connected to the stars themselves, a symbol of hope, a symbol of the future. Outside, the world had changed. Cities grew larger, technology advanced, but the problems remained. Crime, corruption, people who needed someone to stand up for them. Courtney understood something. The world didn't just need heroes from the past, it needed new ones. She activated the Cosmic Staff. The blue energy illuminated the room. The old headquarters came back to life. The computers activated. Old records appeared. Names, battles, victories, losses. Then one file appeared. Justice Society of America status disbanded. Courtney stared at the words. No. She closed the file. Not disbanded, just waiting. Courtney researched the final battle, the fall of the Justice Society, the rise of the Injustice Society, and the name that appeared repeatedly, Icicle. She discovered that even after the Justice Society fell, the Injustice Society never truly disappeared. They went underground. They waited. They prepared. Courtney stood in front of the old team symbol. The Justice Society wasn't about being the strongest. It wasn't about winning every fight. It was about showing people they weren't alone. She lifted the Cosmic Staff. And that's not ending. That night, a hidden room beneath an abandoned facility opened. Old villains gathered. The Injustice Society's symbol appeared. A frozen figure stepped forward. A familiar voice spoke. The world forgot us. Ice formed across the floor, but they remembered the heroes. The figure smiled, which means they will remember us too. Back at the old headquarters, Stargirl watched the city from the rooftop. She wasn't the original Justice Society. She wasn't trying to replace them. She was carrying what they left behind, their courage, their hope, their legacy. The Cosmic Staff glowed brighter. Courtney looked toward the horizon. The Justice Society is back. Far away, a frozen hand touched an old photograph. Icicle looked at the image of the heroes who defeated him long ago. The first generation failed, he smiled. Now, we finish what we started. The future of Earth 2 had forgotten the Justice Society, but legends don't disappear. They wait, and now, a new Stargirl was ready to bring them back. End of JSA, Beyond Number 1, The Legacy of the Justice Society. Action Comics No. 3, The Four-Armed Terror, Earth 2. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals. Part 1, Mortals Metropolis. A city of progress. A city of tomorrow. A place where science, industry, and human ambition reached new heights every day. But every advancement brought new dangers, and sometimes those dangers were not human. The morning edition of the Daily Star filled the streets. Citizens rushed to work. Reporters chased stories. And inside the Daily Star newsroom, Clark Kent worked at his desk. His glasses rested low on his face as he typed his latest article. Across the room, Lois Lane looked over a stack of papers. Kent? Clark looked up. Yes, Lois. You've been staring at that same page for 10 minutes. Clark smiled. Just thinking. About your story. Clark looked toward the window. Something like that. Outside, a distant explosion shook the city. Everyone in the office froze. The lights flickered. People rushed toward the windows. What was that? Is it an earthquake? Clark stood. His expression changed. He heard something no one else could. Screaming, metal tearing, buildings collapsing. His super hearing picked up the source, the waterfront. Clark quietly stepped away. I'll be right back. Lois looked confused. Where are you going? Clark adjusted his glasses. Coffee. Lois raised an eyebrow. During an explosion? Clark walked away. Metropolis coffee can be pretty dangerous. Moments later, a blur of red and blue flew across the sky. Superman arrived above the waterfront. Below him was chaos. A massive creature stood in the middle of the city, 4 arms, incredible strength. A body covered in thick armor-like skin. Citizens ran in fear. Police weapons had no effect. A reporter shouted, "Somebody call Superman." The creature roared. Superman landed in front of it. I heard someone was causing trouble. The creature stared. "You?" Superman tilted his head. "You know me?" The creature growled. "I know Kryptonians." The creature charged. Superman moved. The two collided with enough force to shake nearby buildings. The creature swung 4 fists at once. Superman blocked 2, dodged 1. The 4th strike sent him crashing through a wall. The crowd gasped. Superman stood back up. Okay. He dusted himself off. That was new. The creature attacked again. Superman flew upward, avoiding the blows. He studied his opponent. Strong, fast, but angry. The creature wasn't fighting randomly. It was searching, looking for something. Superman landed. "Who are you?" The creature hesitated. "I am the result of human weakness." Superman frowned. "That doesn't answer my question." The creature roared. "I am the 4-armed terror." Superman sighed. Not exactly a creative name. The fight continued through the streets. Superman tried to avoid harming civilians. The creature did not. Every punch threatened innocent lives. Superman realized something. He's not trying to defeat me, he's trying to prove something. Superman grabbed the creature's arms. All 4. The creature struggled. "You're strong." Superman looked him in the eyes. "But strength isn't what makes someone powerful." The creature pushed harder. "Then what does?" Superman smiled. "Choice." With one final effort, Superman threw the creature away from the city. He carried the battle into an abandoned industrial area, away from civilians, away from danger. After the battle, the 4-armed terror was defeated. Police arrived and secured the area. Scientists examined the creature. Superman watched from above, wondering who created him and why. Later, Clark returned to the Daily Star. Lois looked at him. "You missed the biggest story of the year." Clark sat down. "Did I?" She handed him the newspaper. The headline read, "Mysterious Hero Saves Metropolis." Clark smiled. "Looks like someone did." Lois studied him. "You know." "What?" "You always disappear when Superman shows up." Clark laughed nervously. "Strange coincidence." That evening, Clark walked home, but before he reached his apartment, he heard music. Not normal music. Something different, a voice, a spell, a strange energy. Clark followed the sound. It led him to an old theater. Inside, a man stood on stage, a magician, a man performing impossible tricks. His name was John Zatara. Zatara raised his hand. A book floated in the air. The audience applauded. Clark watched carefully. Magic. He had encountered many things since arriving on Earth. Science, technology, alien life. But magic was different. After the show, Clark approached him. "That was impressive," Zatara smiled. "Thank you." "You seem surprised," Clark laughed. "I've seen some amazing things." Zatara studied him. "Have you?" Clark paused. Zatara smiled knowingly. "You hide yourself well." Clark became cautious. "What do you mean?" Zatara turned a card between his fingers. "Everyone has secrets, Mr. Kent." Clark looked at him. "How do you know my name?" Zatara laughed. "A magician never reveals his secrets." Later that night, Zatara returned to his home. He opened an ancient book. Pages moved by themselves. Symbols appeared. He studied them. The world was changing. Heroes were appearing. Superman, the Green Lantern, others still waiting to rise. And magic had its own defenders. Zatara looked toward the stars. The age of heroes has begun. Across Metropolis, Superman stood on the roof of the Daily Star building, looking over the city. He knew there were dangers ahead. Creatures, criminals, forces beyond understanding. But he also knew something else. He wasn't alone. More heroes were coming. The future was beginning. End of Action Comics number 3, The 4-Armed Terror, to be continued.
What?
Action Comics number 4, The Man of Tomorrow, Earth 2. Saga 1, Gods, Monsters, and Mortals, Part 1, Mortals Metropolis. A city that never stopped moving. The streets were always crowded. The factories were always running. The newspapers were always searching for the next big story. And at the center of it all was the Daily Star, a newspaper that believed the truth mattered. Inside the Daily Star newsroom, Clark Kent sat at his desk writing another article. Across the room, editor George Taylor looked over the latest reports. Taylor was a tough newspaper man. He demanded honesty. He demanded effort. And most importantly,
Do you want
he
the
demanded
answer,
that his
Mom?
reporters stand up for ordinary people. Kent,
No.
Clark looked up. Yes, Mr. Taylor? I need those articles finished before tonight, Clark nodded. I'll have them ready. Taylor looked at him. You know, Kent, you're one of the few reporters here who still believes a story can actually change something. Clark smiled. I think people deserve to know the truth. Taylor nodded. That's why you'll make a good reporter. Later that day, Clark was walking through Metropolis when he heard a familiar voice. Clark? He turned. A young woman smiled. Lana? Lana Lang walked toward him, a friend from his childhood days in Smallville. Clark smiled. It's good to see you. Lana looked around the city. I still can't believe how much Metropolis has changed. Clark laughed. Smallville is a little quieter. A little? She smiled. Okay, a lot quieter. The two continued walking through the city. Neither noticed the trouble waiting nearby. Down a nearby alley, 3 criminals watched the streets. They weren't powerful. They weren't organized. They weren't part of some massive criminal empire. They were simply desperate men looking for an easy target. One of them noticed George Taylor leaving a nearby building. That's him. The others looked. The newspaper guy? Yeah, he carries money. The criminals followed. A few minutes later, George Taylor walked through a quieter street. Lana and Clark were nearby when they heard shouting. Give us the wallet. Taylor turned. 3 men blocked his path. I suggest you leave. One criminal laughed. You think your newspaper makes you important? Taylor stood his ground. I think everyone deserves better than people like you. The criminal grabbed him. Lana stepped forward. Let him go. The criminal turned. Another problem? Clark watched. His expression changed. He could hear their heartbeats, their breathing, the fear of the people nearby. He knew what he had to do, but he couldn't reveal himself. Not here, not as Clark Kent. One of the criminals pushed Lana. Before she hit the ground, a blur moved. The criminal suddenly found himself hanging upside down from a streetlight. The others froze. What happened? A shadow landed in front of them, red and blue, the symbol on his chest shining, Superman. The criminal stepped back. It's him. Superman. One raised his weapon. Superman looked at it. You really don't want to do that. The criminal fired. The bullet bounced harmlessly away. Superman looked disappointed. That was a bad decision. The fight ended quickly. Superman moved faster than they could react. He disarmed them, stopped their attacks, and placed them safely where the police could find them. The criminals stared in disbelief. They had fought ordinary people. They had threatened innocent citizens, but they had no chance against Superman. George Taylor looked at Superman. I owe you my life. Superman smiled. Just make sure you keep telling the truth, Mr. Taylor. Taylor looked surprised. You know who I am? Superman nodded. I know your work. Taylor smiled. Then you know why I couldn't let them win. Superman looked toward the city. People like you remind everyone that courage doesn't come from strength. Lana looked at Superman with curiosity. Who are you? Superman smiled. I'm someone who believes this city is worth protecting. Before she could ask anything else, he flew into the sky. Later that evening, Clark returned to the Daily Star. George Taylor looked over. You hear about what happened today? Clark pretended to be confused. What happened? Superman saved me. Clark smiled. That's incredible. Taylor nodded. He believes in people. Clark looked toward the window. He does. That night, Superman watched Metropolis from above. He could see everything. The lights, the people, the lives being lived below. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a ruler. He wasn't there to control humanity. He was there to help. Because sometimes a hero doesn't need to change the entire world. Sometimes a hero just needs to save one person. And sometimes saving one person inspires millions. End of Action Comics number 4, The Man of Tomorrow.